Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adam Walter, and we have Skip again.
Hey.
I was trying to plan out what this episode should be about, and it's summer, so Skip and I both are constantly talking, complaining, and mentioning our pools.
Yep.
So Skip's
Absolutely.
down in Texas, so he's got a fancy in-ground pool, and I'm up here in Nebraska with my semi-in-ground pool.
Yep.
There's good reasons for each, but we both have a different set. And I started thinking, like, this is a lot like running a business. Like, maintaining your pool and businesses have a lot in common. So I'm gonna do a podcast like where we talk about how maintaining your pool is very similar to maintaining your business, and both Skip and I complain about a lot about both.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think what kicked it off was like, like, Skip, you have a big project you just finished,
Oh, yes.
and
So,
pain
yeah.
I don't have in my pool.
Yeah. So when we moved into the house, we were maybe overreaching a little bit, but we were really excited to get the in-ground pool, and we knew it wasn't in the best of shape, but I thought, all right, I can do this. I'd had several years of experience of maintaining an above ground pool, so I thought I can handle this, and we jump in and we go along for a while, but the maintenance issues didn't, the underlying structural issues didn't just go away with maintenance, right? Sometimes you have to deal with the underlying structural sort of elements. And in my case, it needed new plaster. There was just really no way around it. So, yeah, a couple months ago, we finally bit the bullet and jumped in and did that project. And once we took care of that, fixed that kind of foundational problem, the pool for the last few months has been fantastic. It's been great. We've had, kids over swimming and it looks great. And, just things are so much better. But I put off that very structural foundational problem for quite a while. It was expensive, and, the getting the right people in to do the work and planning all that out was a lot of time. It was very time consuming, and I'm doing other things, right? And so I'm like, yes, I need to do that, but I need to do this, I need money coming in so I can, have the money going out for that. So it's this very, I think, relatable sort of element between your business. There are things you need to do, and sometimes yes, I need to do that, but you keep putting it off because, insert everything else, right? But once I did that thing, yes, it was very transformative in how we utilize our pool and everything associated with it, the backyard, just everything that was surrounding that. Holidays now, when we do things, we're having, our house is at the top of the pick list of, how do we do this? So it changed not just that one element, but all the surrounding things that are associated with the pool. So there's, a lot of similarities we can draw between my pool and your business.
Yeah. And like, so we were talking about how if Skip were to give me advice on how to maintain my pool, it would go horribly wrong. Oh, you know what? If you got leaks, just replaster it.
Yeah, just slap some plaster on it.
If you put plaster in my pool, well, it's not going to stick for one. And two, I don't know if my ring can handle that.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, in Nebraska, it's a lot easier slash better to have a semi in-ground where you bury part of your pool and it really holds and it feels like an in-ground, but it's easier to maintain because the pipes are exposed under our deck or in a soffit of some kind. And that way, when we get these bitter cold winters and your pipes explode, they're not buried under concrete and under soil.
Yep.
They are in your the outside of your pool. And so, we got thinking about like how different businesses run. Like people swear that you need to do this in your business. And like it's probably true. There are some fundamentals that are true. Like the way Skip and I take care of our water, unless he's got a saltwater pool, largely the same.
That's it.
And you got your chlorine. You need to shock the crap out of your pool. You need to maintain a certain chlorine level so that your water stays clear and maintained. Then you got to maintain your pH, make sure it's nice and balanced environment, keep chemicals good. And there's a whole bunch of other little like tricks and tips you can have to maintaining your pool that help it stay clean, clear, and functioning. Just like
Hmm.
in your business, there are tips and tricks to keep your business clean, clear, and functioning, but there are different fundamentals to your company. Like I run a software company. So if I've got an accountant who is very focused on asset management and mileage tracking,
Hmm.
it's not really going to be a
Yeah.
good fit for me. To them, the highest priority is you need to track your mileage. You need to make sure your assets are tracked and fully depreciated. And, they're going to go down that list. Like I'm a software company.
Yeah.
I don't depreciate software.
Well, and yeah,
And
and the
go ahead.
employees, I work from home, so and oddly enough, I have tracked this on occasion. Instead of mileage, do I track how many times I go up and down the stairs? I've got a little counter. Can I plug that into the mileage tracker? So yeah, those dissimilarities there can really make the wheels fall off some processes.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk to people a lot in this industry, and there's a number of people who like they've got it all figured out. You just need to do what I tell you to, and you're going to
Mhm.
scale your MSP. You just need to follow these basic principles. You need to be this maturity level, OML4. You need to be these kinds of things. And these are good advice in context.
Mhm.
So I've got other MSPs that talk to us and they're thriving and they're not following any of those principles.
Yeah.
They're following the heart of them, the idea that you need to take care of your employees, that you need to make sure that you're anchoring your prices correctly, that you are defining your market, and they get how these things work together. They get it either through trial and error or through a bunch of things. So just like I get, if Skip told me to take care of his pool for a couple months, I could.
Mhm.
Now, if it came to winterizing, I don't even know if you winterize in Houston, but when it comes to winterizing, like I will have troubles because I've never winterized a pool like that. Could probably figure it out. I would do a lot of research and I would figure it out. And the same thing with Skip doing mine. Like he'd probably figure it out. It's just
Yeah.
a little different. Draining the filters, making sure everything's blown out, putting the water level to the right level. But Skip might try to drain my pool,
Yeah.
which would wreck my pool, absolutely destroy it.
Yep.
And I need it to freeze in the winter. I need the weight to stay on my liner. Otherwise, the liner destroys itself.
Hmm.
So when we talk about other people's businesses, we need to start looking at the foundation of what the business is and what it needs. Is it a vineyard MSP? Okay, I
Hmm.
probably have a lot more focus on sales, custom environments, customer experience is going to be a big priority. Whereas a school, they're going to be thinking security, they're going to be thinking ease of use, reliability on network transport. These things are going to be a high priority for them. And it's not that I don't know how to do these things. It's just I have to ask questions of my client of what kind of business they're running. Just like if you're going to maintain my pool, you got to ask questions of what kind of pool do I have?
Yep. Well, and there's a really great example about tools. So, tools being your stack, your products. And when I started a few years ago, when I started dealing with this pool and its associated problems, I got some more information, and someone said you need to get a wire brush and to clean the side of your pool. Adam's
Oh,
response Adam's
no,
response was very much like mine.
no.
Why are because my experience, largely before that was with an above ground pool with a liner, a vinyl liner. And they're telling me, what? So I need a wire brush? Well, you know what? For the stage at that pool that it was at the time and the issues I was dealing with, the wire brush was fantastic. It worked. And so, taking that analogy and going into your all of your businesses, all of your customers, because you found a solution that worked really well in one of your customer situations. And you go, this is great. We're going to do this everywhere. And so you start meeting with all your clients and you're saying, you need this wire brush, product. There's going to be a few of them that go, wow, yeah, that really might fix things. But there's going to be so many others that are going to have Adam's response, what? We're going to do that? And it's just not appropriate for the business context. That's a phrase I do a lot of member engagements, right? And we walk through things, and I find myself saying the same thing over and over. It drives me crazy a little bit, but it fits the business context. What is going on in their environment? And that needs to be the priority that sets all your other technology priorities. Because if you don't understand that, you may very well be running into environments and trying to use a wire brush on a vinyl liner pool, right? And
Yep.
it's just not the right fit. It's not the right solution.
Yeah, and with your business, you got to think of this. It's like script kiddies. I don't know if this is still a thing, but back in like the mid 2000s, early 2010s, there was a problem I had with engineers. They would go on to scripting guys or go onto the latest website and they would grab a VB script or an active or a PowerShell or some script that they found that supposedly fixed a bunch of issues. And rather than reading through the actual script and understanding what it did, they would just blanket run it. They would just double click it and run it.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm like, good Lord, dude.
Yep.
At least test it or read through the script and ask questions first.
Break
I
it
could have
down.
slipped anything into that thing. So I contributed. I made scripts. I made some really cool ones in my time. But I could have slipped anything in there. I could have said, grab this key and throw it out to this website, and you would have never known because you've got admin privileges. It's just gone.
Yep.
So this idea like, oh, this fixes this problem, and you just blanket click on it and let it run. And it's the same thing in business. Like you get advice from somebody says, oh, you need a wire brush or the equivalent of, like, you need to get this in your company and you need to behave like this and you'll charge a lot more money. And a lot of you blanket follow this advice and you wonder why you're stuck. It's because it wasn't the right solution for your MSP. Maybe you're a school-based MSP. Maybe you're a generalist MSP and you're following the advice of somebody who's a specific industry. Maybe you've got somebody who's got less mature employees, or you have more mature employees and they really hate following scripted patterns. You gotta adapt and understand your own company's needs and what you're trying to build so that you can adapt the right solutions to your company rather than just trying to copy what everybody else is doing. And don't get me wrong, like if somebody else has an above ground pool just like mine, and I look over and they go, how did you solve the problem with algae every July? You're in Nebraska, you get a pool that's got the same vinyl liner I do, but you never seem to have the algae problem. And they may be like, well, I put in I can't remember what it's called. It's the sunscreen for your chlorine.
Oh yeah, the cyanic acid, is that
Something. There's this bottle you get, and it's sunscreen for your pool.
Okay,
Basically,
a
like
little different
sun
stuff, yeah.
will absolutely evaporate every piece of chlorine you have. And so you can be following a prescription for your pool of like, just keep dumping in chlorine, and that will solve your problems. It's kind of like solving your problems in your company. You just keep dumping cash in, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But if you start running out of cash, you start running a cash flow deficit, eventually that will get you if you do not outproduce. And so in the summer, especially in Nebraska, we get this brutal sun. I mean, it is nasty.
Yeah.
Probably similar to the Texas sun.
Yep.
It just gets brutal in the summers. And so it's like your chlorine doesn't exist.
Right.
And so there's this special formula you can put in there, and it kind of blocks a lot of the UV from deteriorating your chlorine. So it's like a slow release capsule. And somebody's like, just put that in your pool. You put it in once a week, and your chlorine lasts a lot longer. And sure enough, the algae goes away. And that tip helps me. Now, not everybody does that. Now, like a saltwater pool would have a little bit different solution for that
Huh?
because their pool works differently. But if I followed their advice and let's put more salt in and then put a UV filter in, oh,
Yeah,
it'll be fine. And I'm like, okay,
dump bags
nope,
of salt in the deep end. Yeah.
yeah, and dump a couple more bags of salt in there, you'll be fine. It doesn't work. It works great for them. They get this beautiful pool that I want to look like, but theirs is an in-ground saltwater based pool that has a different mechanism. It still uses chlorine ultimately, but to generate that chlorine, there's a different process.
Hmm.
And so their solution to the same problem I'm having is completely different.
Yeah.
And so in your business, you have to think of it like that. Sometimes people are having the exact same problem you are, and they solve it, and their solution will not work for you because
Right.
they happen to hire somebody who was a one in a million. They were a unicorn, and
Hmm.
that person was able to solve the problems. It's not like you're going to go out and find a unicorn.
Yeah.
You might.
There are fatal fixes out there. So, in
Oh, tell
um,
me more.
so I heard this from a coworker many years ago, and they had spent most of their life out in very arid environments, New Mexico, West Texas, and then they moved east in Texas and to a spot that gets a lot of rain. And so Texas is really big. We got really dry spots and we got really wet spots. And in that wet area, he had an in-ground pool and was struggling to maintain it. All right? And it got to a point where it was like, forget it. It's winter, I think it was, or it was cooling off. He's like, no one's swimming. I'm just going to drain it. All right. And not have to deal with it. All right. So
Backfilled, didn't it?
no, no, no. It drained, but when you think about a concrete pool, it's concrete and rebar. I mean, it is a bowl shoved into the ground. And if the surrounding ground gets really, really wet from lots of rain, just like a bowl floating on the water, the pool will float on top of the soil.
Oh, gosh.
And his pool pushed itself out of the ground. Um, and so, yeah, it was a huge disaster, right? So, it was a fatal fix, right? It was, if you're running an above ground pool and you're in some place that doesn't freeze, like the Arctic North like you do, right?
We get all the weather.
Draining your pool during the winter is a very logical step. All right. Yes, just drain it and refill it the next summer, and you save all that hassle and time over the winter. But that advice for my coworker and his pool in his situation was a fatal tip, a fatal fix, and so. Yeah, you've got to definitely look at those and see what is the impact. And so that sounds really simple, right? But I think the one that I bring up lots of times is processes, people, marketing tools, those we can put our fingers on. But there is a very definitive element that is much harder to define, and that is your company culture.
Yep.
The culture matters just as much as your business model. And if you try to run a tip or a process that worked for this one company, but their culture is totally different than your culture,
Yeah.
you may be looking at a fatal fix there as well. You can cause mass confusion with your employees. You can have tons of people leave. Their work productivity can nosedive, and all of a sudden you're like, we got all the right tools. I got all the right processes.
Doing
Everything's
the
in
right
place. Why
thing.
is things failing so horribly? The culture is a really, really important part about your business. And that, when we go through, when we're talking to people, we got little check boxes, which PSA are you using? Which RMM are you using? And we can fill in those fields. What fields do you check for your culture?
Yeah.
Where do you define that? Please, if you got that, I want to know. So
Yeah. The culture of your company could be more defined as what kind of pool do you have?
Mm-hmm.
And like, do you have a Intex inflatable from Walmart? Do
Yep.
you have a in-ground concrete with plaster? Do you have an in-ground with liners? I guess that's a thing.
They are.
Do you
Yep.
have a semi above ground? Do you have an above ground? Do you have an above ground with a deck? And there are different considerations. What is the culture of your organization? Are you egalitarian? Are you hierarchical? Are you like a CMIT? Are you a franchise? Like, there
Yeah.
are things that matter to you. And if you do the wrong fix, if you follow the wrong advice, it was great for this company. So, like, a great example I talk about a lot is people focusing on operational efficiency. You need
Mm-hmm.
to be more efficient as an MSP. That is true. But when you're like, I would say under 10 employees, operational efficiency is not what you need to be focusing on.
Yeah.
You need to be focusing on growth mechanics and defining your culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just like when you start off with like, what kind of pool do I want? You're still in those phases. If you got under 10 employees, you're
Yep.
still in the spaces of like, what kind? So you're sitting there tweaking your chlorine, and you're thinking about all these things that Skip is thinking about. And he's thinking about, okay, when am I going to replaster this pool? What kind of plaster am I going to do for replastering? Like, look,
Yeah.
you don't need to worry about replastering your pool for another 10 years. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to worry about digging back up your pipe. Now, yes, creating the foundation's good. But right now, you just need to get this thing built.
Yep.
You need to get this thing in the ground so you can use it. Otherwise, no one's going to be able to use it, and you're going to be paying all this money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't have like the filter in place, you're going to be dumping a ton of chlorine into this thing and sweeping it every day.
Yep.
And you're going to be working really hard. But if you would put in the filter and start building the company, you would be fine. But you're
Mm-hmm.
too busy worried about what you're going to be in 10 years. You're not worried about where you are today and what you need today to build to that. So
Yes.
I've got a lot of MSPs who will say, well, I cut $50,000 out of my budget last year. And like, yeah, but how much time did that take you? Well,
Mm-hmm.
everybody worked on it. And we moved over from this PSA to this
Yep.
one, and it saved us this. And we did this and this. And like, okay, so you're looking like what, 500-600 hours there between you and all your employees. What
Mm-hmm.
could you have done if you would have focused on growing your company in that same amount of time?
Right. And that's a really important element. So, the 500 to 600 hours, that's an easy-ish calculation, our time, multiplied by our hourly rate on that. This was our cost. All right. But you hit on a really, really important element there. In those 500 or 600 hours, what could they have done to move the business forward?
Yeah.
To build better relationships with clients, to get new clients, to close projects and, deals that brought revenue in. There is a cost not only to doing something, and that kind of more trackable management, but there's a cost in loss of what you could have done,
Yes.
loss of moving forward progress in those
Opportunity
areas.
cost is a real thing, people.
Yep.
And you need to start focusing on this idea of growth. So people will look at like a new company like mine and say, oh, you need to get rid of your debt. Like, no, I need to grow. I mean, if I have zero debt and zero customers, it doesn't matter. I'm back to where I was. But if I have, $1 million in debt and 1 million customers, I'm not complaining.
Right. Yep.
And so this is how we work on our businesses. The right advice at the right time. Just like your pool, the right thing to do at the right time. In the winter, I treat my pool differently than I treat my pool in the summer. I treat
Mm-hmm.
my pool differently when I open it, when I close it. The right time. It's a lot of timing there. When do I put in chlorine? When do I shock it? When do I add copper? When do I add the sunscreen? When do I balance the pH? All of that is important things to do. These are my operations. But I'm different at different stages of the life cycle of my pool. Your business has different life cycles. When you're sitting there as a 2-3 man shop, you need to focus on growth. What's stopping growth? What's keeping you from growing? It'll be really easy and it'll be very, very tempting to say, okay, I need to save money by cutting $100 out here and there.
Mm-hmm.
What you should be doing is saying, okay, yes, you can cut some money out and balance your budget. That's great. You should run a balanced budget. However, you also need to grow because growth will outpace loss, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how you want to run your business.
Yep.
So in the pool, we always are fighting this idea of like our chlorine, our sanitization method has to outpace the organics that are coming to the pool from people's bodies, from natural stuff flying in from the air,
Yep.
and we've got to constantly fight that. The more our pool gets used, the more we need to use the sanitization agent.
Uh-huh.
In your business, the larger your business gets, the more it grows, the more you need to do things.
Yep.
And the more you need to maintain, and you have to change your processes. If people swim my pool every day for 5 hours a day, I would completely have to revamp my chlorine levels.
Mm-hmm.
My old method would not work anymore. Even though it worked last summer, it doesn't work now. I need to triple the amount of chlorine. I need to shock
Yes.
more often.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that when my pool's unused. It's just a waste of money. It's a waste of time. And so know your business. Know the style of business you want. As Skip said, know your culture so that you can feed the right answers to your company. Any final thoughts, Skip?
No, that's really good. I think when you started talking before we started the recording about what we're going to discuss in this, I really that was a great analogy on your pool is like a business, and very much you need to find our joke with a lot of MSP is you're your own unique snowflake living in your own unique snow globe, and that is so true. Everybody is just a little bit different. So you got to look for the foundational elements, match that to your business, and, in some ways just disregard the elements. Don't use a wire brush on a vinyl pool. They're things that just don't fit. Don't need to worry about it.
I just thought of a great colloquialism for this, just take care of your pool so it doesn't become a cesspool.
Oh, that's good. That's good. There we go.
Take care of your swimming pool so it doesn't become a cesspool.
Yep.
Take care of your business in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you all next week.
See ya.